On their podcast.
Oh, here.
they had me as a special guest on their podcast, y'all. I'm gonna have to tell y'all the link so y'all can go and watch it.
Yeah.
Cause I was gonna turn up on this podcast. It's called The Choice Is Yours. Bridging the gap between the generations.
Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to The Choice Is Yours. I am the host and this is my co-host and our special guest.
Yay.
And my name is Domani.
And hi, I'm called Apostle Vanessa Ward, recently married Bemis, and everybody just refers to me as Grandma, so I am so glad to be here.
And my special guest today is my auntie. And auntie, what is your name?
My name, I go by Juju.
Right, we are in here. Okay.
You can just call me Juju.
Okay.
So
they call me Auntie Juju or Bay.
Okay, we loving it.
Tell what Bay.
Bay means it's an acronym for best auntie ever.
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, so
come on now, I love it.
That's my bae, my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And today we're gonna be talking about a couple things. First, we're gonna go through our generations.
Yeah, so everybody knows who's
who. So the top generation we have is the greatest gen, which is born between 1901 to 1927.
Okay.
And I don't think I know anybody in that generation. It's kind of too old for me.
Okay.
Then we got the silent gen, which is 1928 to 1945, which is my grandpa.
Mm-hmm. Recently married husband.
Yep. And then we got the baby boom, which is grandma, which is 1946 to 1964.
We in here.
Then we got Gen X right here, which is 1965 to 1980.
The greatest generation of our
The Gen X. Go ahead.
Then we got millennial, which is 1981 to 1996.
That's your mama.
My mom and dad and all them. Then we got Gen Z, which is me, which is 1997 to 2010. Then we have Alpha Gen, which is 2011 to 2024. Then we got Gen Beta, which is 2025 to 2039.
Okay.
So I don't know how to explain that, but yeah.
We're in here.
Mm-hmm. So my generation is Gen Z. Grandma, what's your generation again?
Baby boomer.
Okay, Auntie?
Gen X.
Yeah, because
So today, since our special guest is Gen X, we got a few questions for our Gen X. We're gonna have a conversation about what be happening with Gen X. What happened? What's the tea? What's the download?
Let me tell you something about Gen X. We are the last generation that literally played outside from sun up to sundown. We are the last generation before tablets, intranet. Okay, we were at home with our teen lines and our pagers. We are the last generation that drunk from a water hose.
I drunk from a water hose.
Oh, okay. Well, we didn't know they were still doing that. Okay, but we were the originators of outside, because we stayed outside. We played outside. We rode bikes. We roller skated. We played curveball. We played hide and seek. We were I want to say, in my opinion, the last of the generation before the internet and AI is starting to take over.
Alrighty. Okay. I can testify to that.
Grandma, what you gotta say about Gen X?
Well, for the sake of introduction, also, granddaughter, daughter. That's my elder.
Been my mama, y'all.
Mm-hmm. So we in here. So I can say they were outside all day.
Lord Jesus, sun up to sundown.
And we didn't have the internet all the time. It was a whole different growing up experience. It was more than what you would probably remember. Do you want to share about what you know so far about growing up with internet or without it?
I'm Gen Z, which internet. Well, I was very sheltered growing up. So even if all the people my age who had tablets and stuff at 4 years old, I didn't. I still was outside playing. Still was outside. So I only recently started getting into the technology of the world until like 10 and 9 years old.
Okay.
So other than that, I was outside. I was living your life.
Okay.
And mine.
Yeah.
We're outside too.
Yeah.
I would like to also say the difference with Gen X, for my opinion. We were a more independent generation. At 5 years old, I was a latchkey kid. If anybody know what that means, that means I walked to school. I had a key to get into my own home that I had to tuck in my shirt, and I would walk to school and I would walk home from school and I would let myself in the house.
Okay.
And while my parents was at work, and I was only 5 or 6 years old, and that was the norm of my generation. We walked home. We knew to come and take off our school clothes. We knew how to come and put on our play clothes. We knew how to do our chores. We knew how to make us a little snack. We knew not to answer that door because our parents wasn't home. We knew not to answer that phone. We were very independent, and we had a lot of responsibility at a young age, which I don't see a lot of children of today with a lot of that responsibility. We did a lot. I came home and made a pot of noodles on the stove. I came home 5, 6 years old, stood up on the chair and cooked. In the morning, I got up, but plugged up the iron, put up the iron, and board and ironed. It's today. I just feel like this new generation, no disrespect, of course, is a little bit, catered to. We wasn't catered to. We had to fend for ourselves because our parents was working and they had to make things for us, so that required us to have to do a lot of things on our own, and it was normal. Everybody was at home by themselves. Now you almost can't even do it because really it's unsafe. Not to say that it was safe then, but it was more expected then.
It was more known.
It was more known. Everybody walked home and had a key at a young age and let themselves in and knew that they had responsibilities they had to take care of. They had things they had to do before your parents got home for work. You knew that these things had to be completed, and it just wasn't nothing.
Yeah. So going on with that, Peaky, how does that fit in with how you want your next question? How was that going to work with your next question, baby?
What did you observe from watching the different generations grow up? Because I know that you watched almost all the generations grow up. Your age. You watched Gen Z, Millennial, Alpha, and then you are going to watch Beta. You watched the Boomers and Silent Gen. So what did you see from most of all those generations?
I could speak firsthand because I am a daycare provider. I own my own daycare. Small little plug, Precious Jewels Child Home.
Put it right there.
If you need child
Omaha,
care,
Nebraska.
yes, Omaha, Nebraska. So I have physically witnessed each generation myself, and like I said, I feel like the difference between my generation, we had to jump off the porch at an early age. We didn't have a lot of coddling. We didn't have a lot of, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like I was just telling one of my girlfriends the other day that my parents didn't even give me a ride back and forth to work. You figured it out. You called the bus, you got a taxi, you maybe met a friend, and you guys linked up with your schedules and you catch rides. We had a lot more responsibility, that I would say. When I feel like this new generation is more kind of, they're like more dependent on their parents. They don't really do too much without, their parents or whatever. I know that they got the Uber teen and thing like that,
and
but
the bus.
And the bus, but it was just way different. We were taught to be independent at a very young age.
Agreed.
I would say that a lot has changed from when y'all was being 5, 6 years old, walking home from school. Because nowadays, if your 5, 6 year old walk home from school, somebody gonna call and say a little kid is wandering. And I was just in the kidnapping rate back in your day.
Go
Back
ahead.
in your day was so low. Now it's so high. You can't. Now I see why the
Well,
families
that's not actually accurate, baby, because back in our day, we had milk cartons that had missing children on it, and it was very common to get kidnapped in our day. It's just that
Community was different.
the community was different. Yes, I would totally agree because we had Miss Neighbor, Miss Johnson, we had Mr. Randall down the street. Everybody looked out for everybody then.
Yeah.
So there was a community. So everybody knew that was Miss Ward's daughter, and we looked out for each other. Today, we don't have that community because everybody's in their house, everybody's shutters is closed, nobody's looking out as much as they did back then, I would say. I look out because I have a little girl that walks my street every day to go to school, and I'll be looking out the window, making sure that baby gets to her bus stop. They probably don't know I do, but I do because I just came from a generational community.
Yes, and then I like to validate that because I did too. And I think a lot of people may not even understand what it came out of. Whatever happens in mama's house stays in mama's house. I think that might kill. But and the reason wasn't so much to be protective, but it was wisdom. Everybody didn't need to know everything because it makes you set up for a problem or trouble that you didn't even see coming because we talking too much. Do y'all hear me? Sharing too much pertinent information that could cause a setback or put somebody else in danger. So when you talk about statistically, child snatching or disappearances were predominantly lower in Gen X than it is now. Uh, we can research that.
And baby boomer too.
Okay, that was lower then. I said we could research that to see if that is.
I don't think it's necessarily accurate because I feel like nothing is done differently. It was probably just as much going on then as it is today. But I just feel the community and how we looked out for each other is different. Now no one's looking out as much, and now things are happening more often and more in broad daylight.
And now the precautions are very
higher.
High. So that's why the kids be like, "Oh, my mom got to drop me off, or I can't go spend the night. My mom got to do like this." Now I see why our generation is so dependent on our parents and not independent. But now some of the YNs, I think I said that in our one video, which is like Gen Z, and they are the ones out here who I want to say teenage boys, but it's also teenage girls, where they are just out here. You be like, oh, that's Johnny from down the street, but Johnny be stealing cars. Johnny be doing this. Johnny be outside every day. That's what's basically why it ends, I should say.
Okay.
So that's where that independence. Some parents are not very in their children's life, and then that's when some kids be independent and be riding the bus, going all the way. If they live down south, they going all the way downtown. It's like they circling the map without their parents even knowing. And that's Gen Z.
So if I was to ask the question, Ms. Jew,
yes,
the struggles that you see, having the experience of watching these generations grow, is there a common denominator? Is there a place where we can say that we do see this consistently being good or consistently being a problem? Can you be able to put as general observations as far as the children's thoughts, the way they see things, the way they feel about things, or the way they choose to handle things? Do you see a common denominator?
No.
Well, let me tell you what I see. This is me just looking. Number one, I don't see boundaries. I don't see that boundaries are clearly listed, that this is how we do it. And you came up, I know you can testify, boundary after boundary, right? We don't talk back. We don't do this. We do that. We're going to, those boundaries, I don't see those boundaries defined as definitely.
I feel like in my generation, it was all about respect. It was definitely about respecting your elders.
We got to keep
it didn't matter if it was your teacher, your pastor, your neighbor, the mailman, the doctor, the librarian. You were taught to respect your elders. It doesn't matter. It's yes, ma'am. It's yes, sir. And you do what you are told.
That's a good one.
That's how I was brought up. This generation, you're not necessarily taught that. It's like, you're not my mama. You're not my daddy. I don't gotta listen to you. I'm gonna tell my mama, she gonna cuss you out. And so there is some difference as far as boundaries. There is some difference generationally wise about what respect is. Also, we were trained to do what you were told and not what you see us do. So as a child, we had to do what they told us to do, even though they wasn't doing it.
Now, I got to piggyback if I may. All right, that's what I find the problem is from the baby boomers' perspective that I'm dealing with. And that's just talking to my peers. You want respect, but you're not prepared to give it. Did you hear that? And then expect, and I guess you can piggyback off of that now, and expect for you to do what? I'm not going to give you respect, but I'm demanding it from you. What does that bring out in your generation?
That's like if my parent or whatever is yelling at me and telling me not to yell back for any reason. Why are you yelling at me and I can't yell back? That's just so like
it makes you.
And in my generation, you bet not yell back.
Right, so that puts a gap. I don't want to hear you.
Would yell back.
Come on, You see, now for me, just using that same analogy, mommy would say, "Do what I tell you, and not what I do, whatever, how." So the phone would ring, and we had the landlines then. We didn't have the cell. Phone
The
would
house
ring.
phone.
I had to answer the phone and say, "Mom's not here," and mom's sitting right there telling me to say that. Come on now, where am I supposed to find the balance?
Yeah.
Do y'all hear me? And these are the things that I see we're dealing with. When I'm talking to my peers, I'll be like, how you expect to get respect if you're not going to give it? Respect begets respect.
Yeah. And a lot of people's main thing is, oh, they don't listen.
Oh God, that's all I hear.
They don't
And,
listen.
and then they tell you that if you say too much to your generation or a little bit under or over, they'll meet you in the parking lot.
That's the
I'm
YNs.
like, why you gotta they're afraid. My generation's afraid that y'all be waiting for them in the parking lot.
Because they are, the YNs been beating up old people.
Oh, see the dilemmas? Here we are. So the respect.
Not the old people.
In the Gen X.
Oh no, no, they're not gonna
But
be
if you
so.
don't come, like I said, let's go back to the point.
No, no.
If you got to come with respect, baby, that's a good note. That's a key note.
Respect is
Yeah,
absolutely
that respect. Those boundaries have to be in place on all generational points. Got you agree? That means every generation should be showing respect to the next one.
Yeah, and I don't like to say that all Gen Z is so not are so bad because I knew I was raised to respect. And I know other people who are raised to respect that is in my generation. So I don't want to say, all Gen Z or don't listen, all Gen Z don't do this, all Gen Z do that. Because I don't. I know my peers don't. So it's just
finding that happy medium, finding that thing that works, and then work
And I
it.
think another thing that take place too is when I was growing up, we had older grandmothers that were actually grandmothers. They were older. Their hair was gray. They was at home. They was cooking. They were going to church. They were teaching the lessons. Yes. But now today, an average grandmother is my age. We're the new grandmothers, and we're not at home doing those same things, that our older grandmothers used to do.
Okay.
Because now our children are grown and they're having children, and now we're ready to live our life.
And then
so we're not that same typical grandmother age.
Yeah.
And then even with the generation of millennials want to bring their children to the grandparents at X.
And they're literally just right there.
And they'd be like, I gotta live my life now. You know what I'm talking about? I raised my children. You know what I'm saying, don't you? It can get very
there's a lot of different
congested.
things that's going on within the generations and everything like that. So yes, there is some differences, but I do feel like a lot of times those old school ways are still very needed and prevalent in today. We still need those old values, those old school morals, those old school principles, because that's what makes us good people.
I agree. When I tell other people, like if I tell a young man that, oh yeah, I can't go to the movies with you without my brother, they be like, what? Because nowadays a lot of females is just the moms just dropping the daughters off at the movies with the young man. So I just, and they just be like, what? Because grandma told me back in their day they couldn't go nowhere without no chaperone. Now in my day, I can't go nowhere without no chaperone. That's either my sister, my brother. That's either any of them. I can't go nowhere without them.
That was very real for me too. But there was a lot of people in my generation that didn't have that either. They didn't have to have a chaperone. So I do think that could be family based and how our family moves and operate too. Because a lot of my friends didn't have to have chaperones, when I was growing up. But I never was allowed to spend a night over at anybody's house. I never was allowed to go on dates without having a chaperone or an older cousin or a brother or a sibling go along with me. That could be our family thing. And, and unfortunately, you got that as well.
So I love the way you said don't throw out the old school ways. But I want to challenge that again to my older listeners today. It still doesn't mean it has to come down the same way it went through the pipe for you. It could be still incorporated, like you said, but come with some wisdom and some respect.
Yes, please do.
Because other than that, the generation is going to keep shutting us down, and we got too much to offer.
They're gonna eat you up.
Oh, we found out eat you up was good.
Well,
no,
that's slang.
That's her Gen X.
Oh no, I'm talking about that eight.
I know.
Yeah.
She just taught me that on the other show.
I taught her that on the other episode.
I watched.
I love that. Teaching
when you were teaching grandma the slang, and grandma was saying all kind of things.
Said the bopper.
On the fish and I said, oh, I said, y'all needed to.
That you said, don't throw that old stuff away. So we'll keep working on stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else, Big Juju, that you see that you might want to say or share with the audience while we got them?
I'm just happy to be here today because I've watched several episodes of, the podcast with my niece and my mother, and I love it, but I just want them to loosen up a little bit and just keep it real and just say what it is, and I'm here to bring that Gen X bump. Because we don't give no beep. Okay, so
I love that.
We're gonna keep it real with you. We're gonna keep it a buck.
See, there
because we didn't have a choice. We were thorough, so we said what we said, we meant what we said, we did what we did, and I feel like that's important in today. We need to still keep some of that realness.
I love that. I love that. What's that word? Authenticity? You said it?
Be authentic.
I keep messing that word.
I keep messing it too.
Keep it real.
I
see that's a D too. Come on. Anything else?
No, I just think this episode's coming to an end.
Oh, darn it.
I
just want to do this all the time.
Yeah.
We're here to try to narrow the gap.
Yes.
Because the generations, we need it.
I agree. I definitely agree.
What Grandma usually closes?
Well, I usually say in closing, we understand that nobody can make you do anything. Anytime I've ever tried to make my children, my grandchildren, anybody do what I say, it only got worse.
Yes.
So we want to leave you with this thought. Y'all ready on 3? Okay. The choice is yours. Okay, we'll see you on the next one. Okay.
Thank you for having me.